It's April 24th, 2020, and I want to thank everyone for coming back to another video on the Final Days channel. I really appreciate it. Today we will be viewing some incredible footage of a celestial object that takes up 30% of the sky, and also surprisingly clear footage of other celestial orbs rolling across the skies of Alaska. These images were obtained yesterday, April 23rd, from the Alaska and FAA weather cameras. Each image is 10 minutes apart. These are being shown to alert the viewers that we are living in the very last days according to the Holy Bible, and to explain how to stay safe in these last days. The video you are watching now came from the southeast-facing weather camera in Yukon River Bridge, Alaska. Now, for several reasons, we know it's impossible for this to be a lens flare of the sun. The most obvious reason is that it's behind the clouds in the beginning frames. Lens flares can never go behind clouds or other structures in a picture or video. Additionally, this object has a highly textured surface, making its fast rotation obvious. Our sun only rotates once every 27 Earth days, and a lens flare of the sun must look somewhat like the sun. So even the rotation of this celestial object tells us this can't possibly be a lens flare of the sun. The close-up images here are not really necessary because this object is so huge, but it was done to give viewers an idea of the incredible size of this object, which is part of a planetary system that is now close enough to cause changes to our Earth. Yesterday, 45 volcanoes were erupting simultaneously. This is historical and unprecedented. You won't hear that on the mainstream news because it might alert people to the very late hour in which we are living. This very red, highly textured celestial object was captured on the southeast-facing camera in Kotzebue, Alaska. We saw this last week on a different camera. It has a surface that looks kind of like brain coral. Once again, we know this cannot be a lens flare of the sun because its textured surface makes its rotation very obvious. In the last couple frames, it does fade into the atmospheric chemicals and become invisible. These atmospheric chemicals have recently become very heavy. I don't have names and labels for these celestial objects. In the Bible's book of Luke, chapter 21, verse 25, Jesus clearly tells us that we will see signs in the sky when we are very near the end of the age. In order to understand what you are about to see, it's necessary for you to realize that the manufactured light in these videos is close to the Earth and passes in front of objects in our sky, such as is this case with this older footage from Attawapiskat in Ontario, Canada. The manufactured light comes into the video from the left, but when the real sun goes behind this mammoth geosynchronous structure in space, NASA's artificial light passes in front of this object, causing the sun to appear to suddenly shrink down to 1/5 its previous size. The sky and the landscape suddenly darken as the real sun is blocked out for 4 hours behind this object. NASA's manufactured light passes over top of this object, lighting it up. It lights up what's behind it as well as what's in front of it. Once the manufactured glare completely passes by this object, the real sun then emerges from behind, once again lighting up the landscape and the sky again. Of course, it would be ridiculous to think that we could actually see a structure like this behind the real sun 93 million miles away. That's just an impossibility, especially with the naked eye or with these cameras that don't have special light filtering lenses. This object that we're seeing here is always visible from this camera but only on rare days when the atmospheric chemicals aren't heavy enough to hide it. And that rarely happens anymore, if at all. However, a new lens was installed recently on this camera which produces a vertical glare in order to obscure the structure from view. This is just another sign that we are living in the very last days. Now that you know about NASA's circular glare passing in front of objects in our sky, you will understand why the same thing is happening here with an absolutely enormous celestial object, the bottom of which is hidden behind the horizon. The atmospheric chemicals make many of these objects nearly transparent, as you can see here. But when the manufactured light passes over top of these objects, it lights them up, or at least lights part of them up, as is the case here. We know that this object cannot possibly be a lens flare of the sun because it's becoming partially illuminated by the light source. A lens flare can never become partially illuminated by the light source causing the lens flare. In some of these frames, the light source is definitely illuminating part of the celestial object. The powers that be can scale down and in some cases completely remove the earthquake monitors around the world so that the public isn't aware of the incredible increase in frequency and magnitude of earthquakes currently shaking our planet. But they cannot remove or hide the 45 volcanoes that are currently erupting all at one time. Untold trillions have been spent to hide this inbound planetary system from the unknowing masses. The reason for all the deception is because the enemies of Christ do not want you to know how close to the end we are, nor do they want you to turn your life over to Jesus while you still have time. Information is at the end of this video instructing you on how to accept Christ into your life. This inbound planetary system is bringing God's judgments to a world of sin and abominations. The good news is that faithful followers of Christ are not appointed to God's wrath, his judgments, the plagues. Psalms 91 tells us that we will see with our eyes the judgment upon the wicked, but that it will not come near us. In Luke chapter 21, verse 36, Jesus says, "Watch therefore and pray always, that you may be counted worthy to escape all these things that will come to pass." Jesus is referring to God's wrath, judgments, plagues. He is saying that those who are counted worthy will escape God's wrath. To be counted worthy, we must be living in holiness. A link in the description box below discusses what holiness is and how to achieve it. These next few screens will tell you how to accept Christ into your life and escape the coming judgments. Simply pause the screen if you need more time to read the text.